So let's discuss surviving religion or religious people. I'm starting a little mini series video diary because I think that people tend to think when they hear the way I speak about the Lord, unless you've been here for a long time, you've watched a lot of my videos, it can come across as though like I must be one of these people who just has had a really good experience with Christians and religious people, and that's why I am where I'm at, when it could not be further from the truth. All of the things I've told you guys about the things I've been through, all of the worst crimes, abuses, traumas, everything you can imagine that I have experienced has been at the hands of religious people and religion. So the reason why I want to do this whole thing is kind of to like share this for if anybody is interested, obviously, so that there is actually a documented like kind of series that people can watch to hear in detail, because I'm going to go through in detail, in as much detail as I want to, about all of this. And also I'm doing it for myself, because as I'm going through my journey of kind of overcoming this kind of oppression of religion and this kind of just, I don't really know how to explain it. I'll get into it in a little bit. It's important for me that I need to just release certain things. So this is for me more than anything, to be honest, like whether I hope people enjoy it, even if people don't, this is what I feel like I need for my own journey, to help me. Because I was today, like, we'll start with this, like I was today having such anxiety about some of the decisions that I've made. And I always wonder, like, why do I regret so much everything that I do? And why do I put so much pressure on myself all the time? And then, that's what kind of sparked me to think, should I actually talk about this? Because I think a big part of why I am the way that I am, like, and the way that I'm so hard on myself, I don't feel like I get to just exist. I feel like there's a version of me that I'm like supposed to be that isn't the version of me that I just truly am. Comes down to religion, like comes down to my religious background and everything. And I'm realizing that because I'm now breaking out of that and the Lord is bringing me through the process of coming out from that, I'm having anxieties at every level that I'm like overcoming. I'm having a new anxiety about trying to accept something and I'm seeing God basically being like, but I made you this way and this is a good thing about you. And I'm like panicking and he's like, but why are you panicking? And then it's like, I'm realizing that it's because I feel like there's somebody that I think I'm supposed to be, and I'm not really just appreciating who God has created for me to be. And that's also why this is so important, because I truly believe that religion is so demonic. And I'm going to talk about this more because we're reading the book of Acts at the moment. So I'm going to be recording a video about that today as well for Acts 3. And so I thought, while we're doing that, while we're also talking about the entertainment industry, I've got so much to talk about at the moment, guys, because I'm just so overwhelmed with so much stuff that is happening. I've got like a couple of videos. I've got a video about Lilith, a video about Sukihana, a video about Doja Cat, which are uploading as we speak. On top of all the videos I'm about to record, I've got so many videos, guys. But I really want to talk about this so that people get the right idea, because there's a lot of misunderstanding and there's a lot of like, I don't know, people just don't really get it. And I think a lot of people make a lot of assumptions that they hear the way that I speak about God. And actually, if not for God, realistically, I would have died at the hands of religious folks. That's one of the reasons why I am so grateful and believing in Jesus Christ, because I actually relate to his story so much, of him coming with genuine intentions for people, with good news, wanting to just to see everybody in life winning. And then to have your very own people, the people that that know who you're supposed to be able to trust, the people that are supposed to have your back, the religious people, the people of God are your greatest enemy. And that is a story I know all too freaking well. And whether that's individual people or just the whole institution of religion itself, because I don't believe God has anything to do with the religion. I believe that's why Jesus came, to destroy religion. And we're going to talk more about this because it gets deeper into the deep things that are going on in the world and how this links in with all the richest people in the world and the evil forces, and how it all links back to religion and religious people. So to start off with where I want to start off with, I don't know where I want to start off with. I don't know how many episodes this is going to be, but I'm just going to speak and say the things that I feel like I need to get off my chest, because I realize that I've got so much inside of my chest right now that I need to get off my chest. So, I guess where I would like to start with all of this is, I think the most difficult part of one of the most problematic things about religion, or at least that I'm finding is I'm struggling with now, is this thing I was just saying about, it's like religion almost makes you where you have to be like a certain type of person. And so like growing up, for a bit of background for those people who don't know, but I will tell you, I've grown up in church my entire life. I was born in the United States of America. Why we're in the United States? Well, because one of my parents went to Bible school. And then why have I moved around the world all these years and all these different places? Planting churches. So that's what we were doing. We were in ministry in America. We were in ministry here in the UK. We were in ministry even when I was like 7. Yeah. We did ministry for like a year and a half or so, even in Zimbabwe. Ministry. I've grown up in ministry. I've grown up with both one of my parents being a pastor, the other one being a worship leader. You know what I'm saying? And so there is just no, that's all I've ever known. I grew up in church. I grew up as a kid, showing up, setting up, and know how to set up all the like, you know, the mics and all the different this, that, and the other. I actually used to sing in church until I was about 12, if you can imagine. And then I stopped because that was just another trauma for me. Singing in church was a trauma. And actually, it's one of the reasons I've refused to sing for years, is because of my experience singing in church. Because I kind of felt like, why am I standing on stage? And like, you're going to notice that a lot of the things that have created for me to be the person that I am now, like the way that I deliver my information, it all comes from my own personal experience. And I think that gets lost. So like the reason why I deliver my messages like in the kind of really unorthodox way is because I remember growing up in church and it always seemed like everybody was so perfect and so put together and so holy. And obviously I know myself, and even if I can like perform and look like whatever and dress however and talk however and quote all the scriptures and stand with my hands stretched up, I know deep down what I was struggling with, and I was struggling with a lot because I went through a lot when I was like very young, like super duper young. So there was never a point in my life where I ever felt normal. For starters, like I never ever felt normal. I never knew what it was like to have innocence, right? I never felt like I've had any innocence, you know what I'm saying? And then so for me, I was just having knowing about a lot of things I should know about and having a lot of deep and adult experiences way too early, if that makes sense. And in that way, I felt like it just stole a lot of my opportunity to ever feel this type of like self-righteousness that a lot of other people felt or could feel in church, because I'm like, I know deep down that that's not how I am. And I know deep down, I mean, I blamed myself for literally years. It took me into my 20s before I was able to actually like not blame myself for things I physically didn't do I didn't even do to myself. Like, it sounds crazy, but that's how it was. And even when I gave my life to Jesus Christ, which was when I was like 7 years old, I remember feeling so guilty. Like, that's when the guilt started. And I just felt so guilty about everything. And I just felt so like, oh, the Lord, there's no way that God can love me, or there's no way that, you know, there's something must be wrong and it must be me, because apparently this God guy is obviously good. And and I just blame myself for everything. Until now, I still blame myself for everything. And so this is why I'm working through this stuff, because I'm like, why do I do this? Well, it's because, you know, when you're around religious people, or religion, just this religious thing of people that are so good and so perfect and seeing yourself as above, because that's the difference between religion and relationship. My relationship with God is that of a parent and child, in the sense that God is is a father to me. And he loves me no matter what. He's there for me on my worst day. He's not there judging me when on my worst day and kicking me while I'm down, which is what I've mostly experienced at the hands of religious people. He's there like comforting me. Like, I remember that, you know, God was there for me the moment when I had no one and I was at my absolute lowest, like some years ago. I won't be specific because I don't want people that know me that unfortunately get to watch my videos, which is very annoying, because this is what I believe. Anyway, we won't even get into that. I was really at my really lowest point, and it was the religious people that were actually stabbing me in the back even worse and making me feel worse, blaming me. You guys would be shocked at the things that I've been told, the things I've been blamed for doing, and all sorts of things. And it was then when I was there, and at that point I was struggling psychologically. I was struggling badly. Like, I was not the Christian that anybody would want to be. I was not acceptable to people, like in the way I was conducting myself. Most of you guys probably would never even have ever even wanted anything to do with me or anything I was doing in that state that I was in. And that is where I met God, funnily enough. And I believe a lot of the times he lets us hit rock bottom. And sometimes when we're struggling, like with him not doing things, it's because he doesn't want to do things that he's not going to support religion. religion inside of us. So if I'm trying to earn God's love, like God isn't going to do something because I feel like, oh God, I read the Bible every single day for 3 months. So because I read the Bible every single day for 3 months, I'm praying that you do this. That's not how God works, because then we're just going to keep thinking that it's some kind of earning of his love. That's not the point. And that's why I now understand that a lot of the time he will let you go through things and he'll let you hit rock bottom, so that, like the Bible says, Christ's power is made perfect in my weakness, right? So that when we realize that his power and the power of Christ and the reason the God's love for us isn't about us trying to earn it or to perform or to do something disingenuous just to look good on the outside, but it's about us forming a real relationship with him that is truly true and intimate, that comes from what's on the inside. So it took me a long time to get there and a lot of bad decisions, because this is what I was even thinking today. I really beat myself up because I'm really not, like, in any way, shape and form, nothing even close to what people would class as like a good Christian, like in terms of my past. And you know what, if I could be completely honest, I don't even like to have to talk about like my past in some kind of way, in the sense of like everything then was bad and everything now is good, because I feel like what was in the past was my journey. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes, I've changed doing a lot of things, but me doing what I do differently now, I don't believe I'm better for who I am now. As in, like, just because of the fact that I don't do something else. I believe that I'm wholer as a person, and from being whole or becoming more whole and becoming more healthy and becoming closer to the Lord and valuing myself more, that is what is changing my behavior. But it's not that my behavior, that you look at my behavior and that's supposed to tell you that I'm better. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't really, like, at this point in this stage, I really am moving so far, and I'm finally coming to accept, that I'm going to stay away from trying to become what people want to look like, even a quote unquote good Christian, good whatever. I don't want to be called those things, because for me that just adds the pressure of, what if I have a bad day? What if I struggle? Like, and these are the conversations I've been having with the Lord, like, even about and this is a deep one, because this is one of those things that me and God really have to talk about a lot. Is I'm like, one of my biggest issues with having people in my life is I don't like that I feel like people are not, I don't get to be a human being. So like, if people see me as good, I don't want to present myself as any type of good anything. I don't want to present myself as a good woman. I don't want to present myself as a good friend. I don't want to present myself as a good anything, because what about on the day when I am still a human, when I make mistakes, when I struggle and whatever? What does that mean? That all of a sudden I'm going to be treated as though like I'm the scum of the earth, or like the love that I had is going to be gone from whoever or from whatever, or like I'm now going to be seen as bad. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I kind of sit now more on the side of, I'd rather like look like the least good Christian possible in a lot of ways, while staying true, because it's my experience. Like, and growing up, there was little things that would happen and it was really exhausting for me. I'm not going to lie. And I think this is one of the reasons I was exhausted is, first of all, with religious people, you earn their love by being good Christian or good whatever. So for example, I remember the church that there's a church that I used to go to even near where I live now, which I don't go to, right? Which I started going to when I was about 16. And did I start going when I was about 16? I started going there when I was about, how old was I? Yeah, I probably was about 16, and I stopped going there by the time I was, 18, 15? Maybe I was 15 or so, I'm not sure. But basically, long story short, I always grew up obviously in my own church of my own family, right? My whole life, until I was about, I don't know, what year was that? I don't remember. I was in my teens anyways. I was in my teens, and my parents separated. And obviously, naturally, because my parents separated, one of my parents, the one that was a pastor, was in a different country altogether. And we were still attending that church. We obviously left that church because why would we still go there? That was weird. And then I started going to another church, which was a good church. Also, I've been to lots of churches in my adulthood, and some of them have had added issues as well with this religious thing. Because one of the churches I even went to was a cult. Looking back at it, and the way that I got out of that is from the most unchristian route. I'll actually explain to you guys this story because it's absolutely insane, and it just goes to show you what I'm saying about the realness of what God is doing versus like what religious folk are like, right? So when I was at university, I'm going to come back to the church thing, by the way, don't worry. I don't know what I'm saying, don't worry. Who's worrying? But anyway, when I was at this cult, right? So this is going to be a perfect example of why I say that God isn't a part of religion. I was at this church, and this church was very culty. Now, I knew of other religious people who knew that I was going to this church with this particular individual, and the main pastor was a female, and there was no real leadership. It was just her, which is a red flag. I just want to say that any church or any ministry where there's one person at the top, there's not a whole group of leadership, it's a red flag. The Bible actually specifies how church leadership should run, and there is never a part where you just have one person at the top and no one that they're held accountable to. Less so women. Hate to say it, but it's what the Bible says. It's just saying what the Bible says. And from my experiences, I'll be honest, I understand the scriptures. That's why when I say a lot of things, people are like, oh, that's controversial. You don't this. I'm like, no. I've actually seen the truth. I've seen the reality. So there was a woman anyway, and I believe she was well-meaning, but she was at the top, and she, in her own issues, was a woman who had, and I don't believe she ever dealt with this properly. If you ask me, I don't even know if she has to this day. But when I was at university, so I've moved out, I've gone to London, and this is the worst thing that could happen to me. I've gone into London with all of these issues. I moved out at 18 years old, of which I just turned 18 because my birthday's in May and I went to university in September. So I'm freshly 18. I've moved into London, the city of London, and this was the only church that I knew of. And I've joined there, and it's like a cult. So when I say it's like a cult, there was literally like maybe 30 people total ever, because no one would ever stay there for very long. And it was just insanely intense. So we'd have we'd start church in the morning at they would have early morning prayer calls, and every single day there would be something in the morning and something in the evening. Now I, in my little innocence, and this is why sometimes I feel like being young in this world is very unsafe. In my innocence, I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to be to uni, but I'm going to try to be a good Christian girl, and make sure that I don't leave church out, but I also don't not have a social life. So I really did my best to try and do both. And you guys will see how this goes, because it's just insane. And when I think about this is what makes me stressed about sometimes just existing in this world. So I remember that at this church, we would have to be at everything, and it was really intense because I'm now at uni, and for the first year of uni, I lived the full-blown uni student experience, guys. And the problem with me, and this is the problem with me, one of the things that I've struggled with amongst Christians, is God has created me to be like some kind of, I don't know, crazy crackhead daughter of his. I genuinely believe that, because I was like, the first year at university was insane. I remember we used to go out literally 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We used to go out, because like Monday it was the cheerleading teams social. There was a bar that used to sponsor us, so we used to go out there every Monday night. And Tuesday night we'd go out. Wednesday was the sports teams. Now every single night we used to go out, and it was nuts. We used to go out in the middle of the day between lectures, and on the top of that I was doing dance, I was doing cheerleading. I'm training at some of the best dance studios in all of the world, in London. I'm meeting all these different people, and I'm being thrown in the deep end at 18 years old, young little me, right, trying to be this good Christian girl. And then I've ended up in a cult. I've ended up in this cult church, which was and I'm trying to balance the two. And it's funny because I met this girl, and me and her are friends to this day. In fact, we've just recently rekindled our friendship. And this is one of the things that's really had me deeply thinking about, the difference between religion and relationship with the Lord, right? And how Christians have really failed us. Because this friend that I've made, right? And I have to say, I'm so grateful that we have rekindled, because she was one of the best friends that I ever had as a female. And she's one of the only few female friends I can truly say to this day, as I can evaluate and say, is a true child of, like, a true believer in God, in the way that God intended, not in some weird religious way, right? But the way that we met, and the whole story is insane. Like, because basically the way that we met, I don't know if I told this story in another video recently, I don't think I did, but basically, long story short, we're at the university bar, right? And in one of the rooms, there's like a pool room, and there's all these pool tables, and she was all the way at the far end. And I remember seeing her standing there looking stunning. She was in like a bodycon dress, heels. It was pink, and she's absolutely beautiful girl. Like, she's got lovely long brunette hair, hazel colored eyes. And so she was standing there, and there was a whole bunch of guys standing around her. And she was like, I'm beating all of these guys at pool. Like, she's exactly my type of friend, right? Because I like girls who are like good at stuff and who are confident. I like people like that in general. So she's like, these guys can't believe that I'm beating all of them, but I'm beating all of them at this. None of them can beat me. And it was true. She's like, they can't believe a beautiful woman in heels and a dress is beating them at pool. And it was so funny. And so that's how we met. And so we met like that, and I was just laughing at her. I'm not that good at pool. I'm decent. Actually, I'm better now because I've had to do it because of like youth work and stuff. But I was just laughing at her. So literally all I would do is I would go, we would hang out and do lots of things. Like when she was doing the pool thing, I would just buy her some rosé, and I would sit there next to her where she was. And I'd buy a rosé for the both of us, and I'd just be cheering her on and laughing at her. Like, and she would be like gambling with the guys. She would be like, oh, how about us to go against you two? And then if we win, you're going to buy us drinks, or you're going to give us this amount of money and all this stuff. And she was really funny. Like, she made me laugh a lot. And, and so the way that we came to meet each other, right? This is how we came to meet each other, which according to a lot of Christians would be like, what was I even doing at the uni bar? What was I doing drinking wine? What was I doing this, right? Everything is wrong with this. Why was I there? I should have been in Bible study, according to even this cult, which we'll come to that in a second. So me and her start to do all of this. And I mean, me and her, she was one of those females who she's like me, as in like when we're with each other, we get up to no good, like to no good. Because we were talking about this the other day because I went to see her now. She's now married with a child and all sorts. And her husband are both in the church in terms of what they do for work. So this is insane, right? And but before we get to that part, we used to go out all the time. We used to be enjoying ourselves in our little outfits, going out, drinking, this, that, and the other. And of all the female friends I've ever had, we probably got up to the most mischief. She's the one I probably got up to the most mischief. And what happened one day is I said to her, me and her, this other girl and her used to hang out. And one day I was like, oh guys, I can't see you on Sunday because I'm going to church. Because obviously I was still going to church. And the reason why I was even so living such what a lot of people class as hypocritical life, and this is why, it's because of religion. Because I was going through a lot internally, and what I was getting out of having, say, her as a friend and going out, it's like it was the first time I didn't feel like I have to be perfect, and I was actually enjoying myself. I was actually having people that were there for me, because I always use this example when I talk about what I wish Christians were like. You know, like when I would go out like with my friends at uni, this is what I wish Christians would do, and this is the type of Christian I want to be, right? If you go out and let's say you drink too much, for example, your friends are there to look after you. They look after you. They're like, listen, girl, like, come, let's go you go to the bathroom. They help fix you up. I buy you a cab. You buy me a cab. You make sure that they get home. You make sure that they eat. You make sure that they're looked after. You check on them the next morning. And then you're like, hey, are you okay? And you look after them. And the point is that when somebody's in a tough spot, you're supposed to look after them, not bash them, which is like a lot what the church would do. And so me and her would try a lot too. So then one Sunday I was like, hey, I'm going to be at church. And she was like, oh, can I come to church with you? Because turns out she has a background in church as well. But her background and her life background is similar to mine in terms of we've both been through hell at the hands of like the people that we should have trusted the most, basically. And to this day, we still both are. So that's again why it's been amazing for us to be talking again, because we both know how much we love the Lord and how much God has done for us. But we also both understand that we don't really fit in anywhere, because according to the Christian community or the people who see themselves as righteous and godly, we're not good enough, and we will never be good enough because we've already done too much to be able to be accepted, right? But then into the world, we also can't really fit in with the world, because like one of the things me and her were talking about is we were talking about her being married, and she was saying that like, for her, like she's made a serious commitment and she's not just going to hop out of that commitment just because when the going gets tough and this, that and the other, and that she can't really talk about that with any of her other female friends, because any of her other female friends would just be telling her that she needs to just do this. If there's any issues with her husband, she just needs to leave immediately. And so we're like the only two people on earth right now, I feel like, who like truly like, and a lot of female friends I have, we have these things in common, like of being like, we don't really fit in here. Like we're not good enough as far as being good, classed as good, and we're not like, but we're also not of the world at all, and we don't want to be of the world. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, so me and her went to church together. Anyway, we started going to church together. I brought her to this cult. Now, here's how you know that there was an issue. One day, me and her, one of our friends was having like a karaoke was having a birthday party, and me and my friend, again, we were both trying our best to maintain being normal people and also being people of God without having to just cut everything off. And we were doing the best with what we had, right? We were just doing the best with what we had, and we had a lot of whatever, and thank God we had each other, to be honest. So there was one Friday, our friend was having a birthday party, and we were supposed to have Bible study at, say, 6 o'clock. We were supposed to go and meet them for, I think, dinner at like 9 or something, and then we were going to go to the karaoke place at like 11, right, in central London. Really good karaoke place, I'm not gonna lie, but anyway, not important for the story. So what happened is we went to we went to the Bible study. We came dressed as we were, in our dresses, in our heels, in our everything, because we were like, we're not gonna, like, we had such good intentions, you know what I mean? This is why I hate living on this planet. We were like, we're not gonna like try and hide what we're doing. We're not gonna be hypocrites on either side. Like, we weren't gonna be hypocrites around the people that our friends knew that we were going to church. We weren't hiding it. They knew that this is what we did, but we also weren't gonna hide from the church where we were going. We weren't gonna be like pretending we're wearing one outfit, coming in looking Amish, to just then get naked, half naked, to get on the tube, right? Which of course made the church people uncomfortable the way we came in dressed, but we did it anyways. We weren't dressed like really inappropriately, by the way, but just not like the most, what you would like, not like what a lot of people would say we should have been dressing like in church, but we were dressed reasonably. Anyway, so we come to the church Bible study, and one of the issues that we had at this church Bible study, and this is what happens a lot of religion and religious things, is that the church itself was like, they would always start really late, and then they would run late, and then they would always do this thing, which a lot of church people do, where it's like, oh, but if you don't stay and if you don't this, then they make you feel like you're the ungodly one, right? Whereas we had a perfect plan. The Bible study starts at 6. It's supposed to finish at 7:30. We were supposed to meet our friends, at 8, I think. We were supposed to meet our friends at 9. It was going to take us about an hour. So we told them, hey, we'll be on our way. We'll maybe be max 30 minutes late, if anything. And that was just us accounting for the fact it's a Friday night in London. And it should have all gone smoothly. We go to the Bible study, we go to the dinner, we go to karaoke, and that's the night, right? No, because the church people were trying to hold us there, and they were like, oh, you guys, you shouldn't be leaving, and da-da-da-da. So we kind of had to force leave. We ended up getting to dinner extra late, and I was just like, this is the type of thing that I don't like. And again, this is this cult where it's like, I don't know how many hours a day, every day, this like small group of people were spending in this church thing. And so, so that's what happened. Fast forward anyways, it was because of her that I actually got out of that, because the summer came and it was second year. She was like, hey, I've been going to Hillsong. Do you want to come with me? That's how I got out of that church. If she wasn't for her, I would not be where I am with the Lord today, because it was when I was in Hillsong church with her, even though Hillsong now has all the stuff going on, and even I saw stuff we both did there. In fact, that's where she's met her husband, who they've been married now for 6 years. So if it not been for her calling me and asking me to come to Hillsong, then and us going in the second year and beyond, we would never have like become the women that we are now, basically, is what I'm saying. And again, we've had to be there for each other, like in Christ, over the years. Meanwhile, according to the world, according to religious people, we would be seen as like not doing the right thing. When in reality, we were the ones, we would be even the ones telling people about Jesus. Like, we'd even be the ones sharing, like she had tried to get involved in, the university. Oh gosh, maybe I should do a separate video. I knew there was going to be so much to say if I started to talk about this, We'll come back to the university one as well, because me and her both had issues with the university church, and it's a university that's church-wide in this country across a lot of the universities, and they are also a cult, by the way. So she had poor experiences with them, because again, she's come to uni, she's trying to do the best that she can, right? She's trying to, prioritize the Lord and everything, but then she gets caught up in the wrong thing, and then we're both like, here we are again, trying to do right by the Lord, trying also not to be a complete square and cut off from the world and judging other people, but then encountering just these crazy behaviors and these crazy people, right? That we're getting involved with. And again, we and her ended up arguing a lot with the church people there, because the guy, oh my gosh, the guy who was one of the main leaders of the church at the uni, right? Which I don't know if I should mention the name, because they have done some good things, but they've done, from what I've seen, there's been a lot more bad than the good. But anyway, one of the guys who was the leader, right? He literally was one of the worst in terms of being a hypocrite, because like I said, me and her never pretended that we weren't doing what we were doing, if that makes sense. Because I've always tried to have an authentic journey with the Lord. And I believe that's why the things that have changed about me, they haven't changed because I've tried to, like, it's not that I don't go out the way I used to and whatever, like, because, oh my gosh, I'm a Christian now, so I don't do it. It's that I don't want to, because of how I value myself now and how I want to be and who I like, what I want to do. I just don't want to do it. I'm not being held by gunpoint. And if I wanted to go out clubbing today, I will go, to be honest. I don't want to, but if I wanted to, I would. If I wanted to go, and this is what will upset Christians. They'll be like, oh, there's no way she can say that because a Christian. No. The point is, God as a parent is supposed to have a relationship with me where he helps me to understand my value, what's worth of my time, what's of value in this life. And so then that just changes my desires. It's not that I'm being held at gunpoint. Like, if you go out, you're going to be going to hell if you do this. It's like, no, I don't want to do those things because I don't want to do them. Right? And that's the other thing I have as an issue with religious people, when they make it look like, oh, because you have God now, you're being held at gunpoint, and you it's like when Christians will say stuff like, oh, well, I would do this, or like religious people, I would do this, but I can't because I'm a Christian or because I'm a Muslim. It's like, well, that sounds like prison, and that's not what the Lord intended, and no wonder that religion, people are being put off by God. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so one of the guys, the leaders at that church, they would judge me and her because I got into an argument with, well, not even an argument, I got into a debate with like so many of them in that library once upon a time, because we got into this argument about the scriptures and whatnot and what have you. And because I didn't want to go to their place, also I didn't want to go to their services because I already had services outside the uni I was happy with. And on top of that, my friend, the one I mentioned, she, on the first day, had tried to go there. They weren't letting people leave. They were literally like locking people in and not letting them leave. Do you see what I'm saying? And so, but then these guys are, again, it's another thing where I'm kind of being treated as though like, oh, but we see you doing this and we see you doing that. You need to come to the Lord. You need to come to the Lord. You need to come to the Lord. Honestly, I believe I had more of a genuine relationship with the Lord even then than they did, to be honest, right? And one of the main leaders, because all of them, and this is what was crazy about it, because all of them never were out like at the parties and stuff, they didn't realize that this guy was the guy that was coming in and like buying people drinks and smoking weed and doing all this stuff, and like literally the one of the worst ones. Right? But then because none of them came out, they didn't know that he was living this hypocritical life, and then he would just show up there, and then that's what actually makes Christians and religion look bad, because people would see him and would see him being a hypocrite. Whereas at least with me and my friends, when people ask us directly, like when people ask me now, well, how come you're a Christian but you do this? I'm like, listen, bring up every scripture and let's have a discussion. I'm not going to hide myself. I'm not going to hide what I do. Because I grew up with the hypocritical stuff. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Like, I've seen the hypocrites. I've seen, me and her have both been victims of the most heinous crimes, from some of which, and a lot of which, at least for me, all of mine, at the hands of religious people. You see what I'm saying? And so so anyway, we'll start with that. But like, so now anyway, fast forward, she's the best type of female friend I could have at a time like this in my life as a young woman, because she's the only person I can talk to who takes family as seriously as I do, who actually believes in God and has a genuine relationship with him that isn't based on religion. And it's like, she would be the most unlike, and this is the point where I've just told you this whole story, of all the people that you would have thought along the way, she is the least likely, based on how we met and how our relationship started out, that you would think I would be able to call a friend, or I would connect with in a serious way, and bring me close to the Lord and be so in sync, because we haven't spoken in like 8-9 years, and we're literally on the same wavelength. Like, everything that she's saying, everything that she's explaining, we both see things the same way. We both value the Lord. We both have changed, not because we feel we've been held at gunpoint, but because we actually have been changed by, like the Bible says, you shall be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So, so this is just, this gives you a little bit of a beginnings to why I really want to talk about this, because I feel like this is real life. Like, a lot of the times God is doing things not in the way that the religion is doing it, because how many of these so-called religious people failed us along the way? Meanwhile, it's us finding each other as two young women who've been through hell and have had all types of issues and all sorts of things, who found each other in the most unorthodox circumstances, and now would have such a strong relationship in the faith and be such strong people in the faith, you know what I mean, as women together. And like, even over the years, we always get into these funny debates where like, if people will be upset, oh, I won't even get into it, guys, because it's so deep and there's just so much to say. Yeah, so we'll start with that. Like, I'm gonna leave this here for now, but if you're feeling interested about this, stay tuned, because I think what I'm gonna go on to next is going to be going back to where I started and how that built up to before I left to go to university. Because when you see that, you'll see why I have such an issue with religion as opposed to relationship with God. Because I am seeing, and you guys are going to see God showing off. You're already seeing it's winning season right now. Where I'm at now, but where I started, I'm just the same victim of religious people as the next person, if not worse in a lot of cases. And it's important to talk about because the Lord cares. I'm talking about it because the Lord cares. When me and her individually had nobody else, and we were going through hell as young women, we both found God both had us. And the fact that he had us is why we are the women we are today. And when we were being failed by the religious people. Anyways, guys, if life's a game, it's played to win. Stay tuned for, I don't know how many of these episodes is going to come out, but I'm going to be talking because I want to get all of this stuff off my chest. I really need to do this for myself and also for others out there to know that like this is the real life, how God actually works, not what this like, oh, you go to church and you have to be this. Anyways, God bless you and see you in the next one.